Let's take a look at the Panasonic Lumix S5II picture profiles, starting with the standard picture profile. This is the default picture profile, which is why it's called the standard. It gives you a good mix of contrast and saturation. The vivid picture profile looks a little too saturated on the skin tones for my liking, but this can be used with great success on objects. So if you plan on shooting something other than a person, give it a shot if the color is vibrant to begin with. The natural picture profile gives me the best skin tones out of all of the picture profiles, and this can be easily customized in the settings if you want less contrast or less saturation. N-Class N is a vintage style or retro style picture profile. You can easily go ahead and add more contrast levels and saturation in post-production, but it's a great retro looking vibe. If you want a bit more flexibility in post-production, shoot your videos in the flat picture profile. This gives you more flexibility and headroom over Cine D and the natural profile. The landscape picture profile is great for outdoor shooting, but it can also be used with great success in the studio. The landscape picture profile will give you a close to finished result with more contrast and more saturation. The portrait picture profile gives you a great straight out of camera result without as much contrast or saturation as the landscape profile. If you want to shoot in monochrome, this first option is great. It not only retains the highlights on the skin tones, but it also keeps the details in the shadows. Our monochrome gives us less highlight information overall, and it also looks slightly more saturated. If you go back and forth, you'll see a big difference between this and the prior. Our Monochrome D gives us more highlight information than the prior one, but we still get a very saturated look. Additionally, the shadows aren't as crushed as the prior picture profile. Our Monochrome S reduces the contrast and saturation and favors the highlights. Use this if you want more control over your shadows in post-production. Cine D2 is a great option for shooting video, especially if you want more control over your highlights and shadows. It's not as saturated as many of the other picture profiles. Cine V2 is another great option if you want a straight out of camera result without a lot of post-production. Just know though, there's not a lot of flexibility when you shoot with this picture profile in post. Lumix S5II is another popular option for shooting video. However, I find it a little bit too silver looking on my skin tones when compared with many of the other profiles. If you want the most dynamic range out of the S5II or S5II-X, you'll need to shoot video in the Vlog picture profile. This is how Vlog looks straight out of camera without any type of post-production. Here we have Panasonic's nicest LUT being burnt in thanks to the real-time LUT loader. You can upload your own LUTs to the camera and select which one you want to use in real time at the point of recording.